Good afternoon and good morning to our West Coast listeners. My name is Juan Thomas, Chair of the ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice Section, and I'm so honored today to have a dear friend and mentor to me as our guest, Mr. Will Schooley, who served as Chair of the ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice Section during the bar year 2018-19, and who's now the pro bono manager and supervising attorney at the San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program in San Diego, California. Welcome, my friend Will. Good to see you and good to have you here.
Thanks, Juan. It's always a pleasure to be in your good company.
Well, Will, you have taken on a new task over the last couple of years. You have been a leader in our profession and in our section, obviously as a past chair, but also in the ABA and many other entities. But now you are the pro bono manager and supervising attorney for an organization that's celebrating its 40th year anniversary, from what I understand. And could you tell us about the mission and purpose of the San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program?
Sure, Juan. SDVLP, as it's affectionately known, was founded in 1983, a date I remember well because I was barred in 1984. So it was just a year before I began practicing as a lawyer. And I remember when I first started it being on the horizon here in San Diego as an organization that was doing justice. And it was founded to further the vision that everyone in San Diego enjoy equal access to justice, regardless of their economic status. And the way that's done is the way we provide equal access to justice by connecting indigent, disadvantaged, marginalized folks with lawyers in San Diego County who volunteer their time to help them. So we're a pro bono public service law firm on the pro bono model. And what that means is we're able to serve a lot more poor folks than traditional legal aid because there's special funding that allows us to use as our income eligibility 75% of the median, the high-low income status of low-income folk, as opposed to the federal poverty line. And that means that we get to help not only a lot more folks, but especially we get to help people in Southern California where the cost of living is so high. We're not bound by the federal standard. So there's like a $30,000 to $40,000 difference in the income folks that we're able to help, which is really tremendous in terms of our ability to reach across a spectrum of folks.
So your work is really committed to mission and purpose. And I love how you described that. And you really kind of touched on economic issues, the wealth gap. Could you give us your sense or your definition of the racial wealth gap?
Sure. Back in the day when I was coming up, I was a sprinter. And so I kind of analogize it to a 100-yard dash. You got the starting line and the finish line, and you get your starting blocks here at the starting line, and Black Americans are here at the starting line just getting into their blocks, and white folks are at the 80-yard line already. That's where their starting blocks are. Basically, Black Americans have been forced to build an economy from which they've been systematically excluded since the time of slavery. And so despite the mighty contribution of Black Americans, Black American wealth is 8% of white wealth. By wealth gap, by wealth, I'm talking about the difference between what people own compared to what they owe. The resources that we all use to send our kids to college, to buy a house, to start a small business, to even have access to justice. And there's such a disparity. The statistics are just horrifying. That 8% that I mentioned, the median wealth of Black households is $14,000 compared to almost $190,000 for white folks. The average Black household had $142,000, give or take, compared with almost $1 million, $980,000 for the average white household. Compared to whites, Black Americans are twice as likely to be unemployed and earn 25% less when they are employed. So these aren't just statistics. This is what, this is the real painful and racial disparity that I see every day in the work that I do and the clients that I'm dealing with. 75% of our clients are women and children. Almost that high a percentage are people of color.
Wow. Do you find that the ongoing debate around why people are in this predicament, um, troubling. There's like two thoughts. One is people are poor because they're lazy or don't want to work, versus the institutional and structural barriers that you've alluded to. Could you kind of speak to that debate and conversation, what you see on the ground working with people who find themselves economically disadvantaged?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nails on the head. The persistent black-white wealth gap is no accident.
Right.
Slavery followed by centuries of federal and state policies that systematically facilitate the deprivation of Black Americans and indigenous people, from the torture and terror during slavery, followed by the complete absence of any reparations except to white slave owners, the systematic oppression of Jim Crow after that, and then New Deal redlining, to today's kind of institutionalized racism that we see apparent in disparate access and outcomes in education, healthcare, jobs, housing, and in the criminal justice system. Government policy and just blatant racism have prevented Black Americans from building wealth. And it's all counter to that narrative that you hear all the time, and that I hear even from people saying, well, these people aren't working hard enough, or they're not smart enough, or,
right.
It's a narrative that we have to battle all the time, every day.
But what is your response to those people who say that? I'm sure people that you represent are hardworking, are trying to make it. How do we counter that narrative that there are structural institutional barriers in law, that and in policy, versus people who are, quote, just making bad decisions or bad choices?
Yeah, so much of it is education. I have many jobs in my current job, but two of them are helping the clients, and the other is helping the lawyers who help those clients to understand the history and the circumstances of the people that they're dealing with. Trying to make people conscious of things that they have been made unconscious of their entire lives. Is not necessarily, lawyers volunteering with me are very well intentioned. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're facing this kind of web of myths about what's happening, entrenched racialized mythologies. Just in our language, we have these in our unconscious language. Working class whites is a great example. We don't hear about working class Blacks. We hear about welfare queens. The working class whites reinforces the idea that people of color are poor because they're lazy or less intelligent, while working class whites are working hard and striving and doing everything they can to better themselves. So we got to look back at American history with clear eyes and look forward at the current and the present. And part of the challenge is what's going on now is this effort to undo our effort to tell the true story. All these efforts to make history, prevent us from telling the true history that is starting to be told in education now.
Your response makes me want to kind of pick your brain about your thoughts around the Supreme Court decisions that came out earlier this summer around affirmative action being dismantled, and also the student loan debt case. Do you have any thoughts on those two cases?
Yeah, that was such an upsetting decision.
Mm-hmm.
There was a, let me just see if I have it here. There was a quote from Justice Sotomayor that I thought summed it up perfectly. She said, in commenting on the decision, she said, in a society where opportunity is dispensed along racial lines, equality cannot be attained through race blindness. That was her retort to what the majority opinion was.
Right.
And it's just such a fundamental, basic premise of everything that I do and have been doing to try to help people understand, you can't, that kind of idea that, now we're going to treat everybody equally, doesn't work when the playing field is so egregiously unequal. And that's part of what I'm doing every day, in the work that we're doing, and what we as a country and as a section need to work on is getting that message out.
Right. Well, Will, you were so gracious earlier this year to come to Washington and participate in our Economic Justice Summit. Your presence and contribution was invaluable. As you know, we focused this year on economic justice. And I'm wondering, as this bar year comes to a close and we start a new bar year in September, do you have any thoughts on what we should be doing moving forward to continue to be engaged in economic justice solutions and policy making as a section, but also as an American Bar Association?
Man, I have many thoughts. You know, I feel like part of it is just what we've just been talking about. Focus on furthering awareness that the secret sauce of the modern economy is race. You know, it's important to focus on economic justice, but really understanding that secret sauce is race. That, you know, race and racial and economic justice are conjoined twins. It starts with the white American vision of slavery as an aberration, as an exception to American exceptionalism. And we have to understand that the taint of slavery's torture and terror is on all white Americans' inherited wealth. That this is a pervasive concept, that our country was founded on the genocide of indigenous people and the mass enslavement of Black folks, and our economy's been predicated on it ever since. And if we don't understand that at the outset, and that race has been weaponized to stratify the economy into hierarchical levels, and divide and conquer working folks, we're never going to be able to make progress. So I feel like the way people understand that story is key. And if the section can continue the incredible work that you've done, I've been so happy and proud to see the way you've steered that ship and raised consciousness. If we can further that and really continue to focus in a kind of an energized advocacy way on that history and that truth, we can go a long way to making change.
You mentioned how education is so critically important. Let me just simply ask you, what books are you reading right now, or what's the last book you read?
I'm right now. I read a lot. I'm right now reading The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, which is a spectacularly wonderful book. I commend it to people. I don't even know where to start on books because there are so many that I love. But this is a particularly good book. It's written by a poet, and her language is amazing. But the way that she takes the whole history of race in this country and makes it into an intimate story involving this family and these people and this particular heroine is really powerful and also very readable. So I commend that book to everybody's
Make sure we find a link to put that in the chat for people to find that on Amazon or their favorite bookstore.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Are there other resources that you would point to for lawyers to read or be on top of with respect to learning about these issues, or to study these issues, particularly around race and economics?
There are many. You know, I would just encourage people to see and read, for one thing. You know, see as much as you can with open eyes and read. There are many, many books. I've got actually a book list I'd be happy to share. But one is The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee, a terrific book. A little bit older one is The Half That's Never Been Told, book by Edward Baptiste. Both of those talk about that core connection between race and economics in our country, and how pervasive the effects are, and what we need to do to try to reverse those effects.
Well, you have been a dear friend of mine over the last several years. I've had a chance to sit with you and get sage advice. I want you to tell us something fun about you that you do that most people may not know when you're not out here solving the world's problems and advocating on behalf of those who are less fortunate or in need of legal services. What do you do for fun?
I do a lot of things for fun. I mentioned I read, I still play basketball, hang out with my daughters who I adore, my friends. I've got a lot of lifelong friends. I was born in Oakland and grew up in Berkeley, and I don't think I've had a friend that I've made in my life that isn't still close to me. I do a lot of design work. I design remodels and that sort of thing. But a career that I have as a side career is as an actor. I think you're
Right.
aware of it. I do film, TV, and theater. I've got actually a film coming out. Was just finished post-production. It's called, and it's very topical to what we've been talking about. It's called Red Blooded. And I play a high school principal in a high school where the school board is attacking people who are different, LGBTQ, immigrants, people of that sort, promoting sort of red-blooded Americans and it's very topical. I don't know what's going to happen to it. It's going to go to the festival circuit, but it's a lot of fun to do that. And sometimes I get to do projects like this that intersect with my passion for social justice.
I hope you'll invite me to the premiere. I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. If you'll invite me to your last day as chair of the section, where I can give you a round of applause for the great work you've done.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, like I say publicly and privately, I am chair of our section because of you and your support and your faith in me. And I'm forever grateful for this opportunity that you helped pave the way for. So
you more than rewarded my faith, Juan.
All right. Will Schooley, thank you for being my guest today. Thank you for all that you do for our profession, for our section, and please continue to do the good work. And I know, as one of our mutual heroes would say, you will continue to get into good trouble.
I hope so. That's my life goal. Thanks, Juan.
All right. Take care, Will. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you all for being with us today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.